Hello everyone, this is Professor D, and I am here with you on your final slide, your final lecture, before we begin wrapping up the class. And so these are the things that I feel as though you need to know in order to be able to do change in a positive and productive way. So with that, let's go ahead and move to understanding the difference between an ally and an advocate, and some slides that I'd made for another class. And then I'm going to kind of get back to you to talk about how you can think about change, how you need to feel and see change in your head in order to make change happen in the most positive way. All right, Com 263, welcome to the final video that you have for this course. This is about creating a change with our new understanding of what we've gone through in class.
So here I have an idea that's called the spectrum of personal responsibility.
Sorry. All right,
Com 263, welcome to the final video that you have for this course. This is about creating change with our new understanding of what we've gone through in class. So here I have an idea that's called the spectrum of personal responsibility. So over here, you have what I call people IAs, right? These are unintentional, they are intentional, activism participants. Now, the folks here are active racists, people that will happily tell you that they're racist. These are misogynists. Misogynists are men who choose to hate women. These are active sexists. Not that there's women that hate women too. There's active classists. These are people that know they are being is and choose to be is no matter what. Now over here, we've got unintentional activism participants. These are people that are unknowingly, passively racist, unknowingly, passively sexist, unknowing, passively classist. Now, most people tend to fall in the unintentional activism participants. They just don't know that they're part of the system that keeps doing these things over and over again. So they don't know, and they're complicit with systemic oppression. Now, over here, we have the personal work. So these people understand that systemicism works, and they have a sense of what this is and how it does things, but they don't really do anything. Like, they're woke, but they don't do stuff, right? So they don't personally try to perpetuate ism. As we know in this class, it's kind of impossible to do. But they're not doing anything about speaking out. Now, over here, we've got the line of becoming an active anti-ist person. This is where I'm looking to ask you to move towards. This is someone that actively speaks out against ism. They respond to stereotypes, they ask for clarification, they actually try to confront systemic racism, sexism, and classism when they see it happen, right? So this is the bare minimum I'm looking for. Where you may choose to go to is you may choose to look at trying to be an advocate. An advocate lends their privileged voice to try to speak for a target group. So they use their privilege to try to make a difference for others. But they disempower that group by choosing to speak for them. What we want to do is eventually move down here to being an ally. And an ally empowers the group by standing with the target group. So for me, by being a man, if I show up to the Women's Day marches and men want to talk to me about, like, why am I there, I would just shut up and point to the women and say, look, these are the people that you need to listen to. In that way, I use my privilege to give a megaphone to the oppressed group so they feel more empowered by me just lending my presence to being there with them, and then also saying, my role here is to shut up and just listen, and then also agree with everything they say. Now, the farthest you can get into being an anti-ism activist is living a life of anti-ism work. This recognizes that there's always going to be work done, that we always need to get better at learning how to be less and less complicit with systemic oppression, and we expect the responsibility and the accountability of attempting to always be on, always make the difference. And so people will be in the spectrum of responsibility in all different spaces or places. The place that I'm hoping to get you to, at the very least, is just speaking out against ism when you see it. But with this, because we understand these things, we need to look at what we can do to create change for the people that are experiencing systemic oppression around us. So I'm going to begin to help you start to understand what we can start doing to use the learning that we have to make a difference for others. So with this, I'm going to ask you to pause.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next area of video, and this is what I want you to understand about change, because a lot of times with change, we over-glorify the person that starts things. Because usually there's a lot of people that start things, but nobody gets on board to make a difference with the thing that happens. I want to encourage you to try to find somebody that's doing something amazing and excellent. And I'm going to ask you to step up to the challenge of being the shirtless dancing guy. But what am I talking about with shirtless dancing guy? Let's watch this video and it will help break that down for us.
So ladies and gentlemen, at TED we talk a lot about leadership and how to make a movement. So let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and the crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So, notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry.
See the in group?
Over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they will be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So, first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy who was first, and he'll get all the credit. But it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that at TED. Thanks.
So with that, again, I show you that video because, one, because I just love and adore it. And then the other reason is because I feel like it's just a great way of like seeing and understanding things, because leadership so much of the time, like we're expected to go off and like make all this big change by ourselves. And is that possible? Yes. Is it easy? No. Is it recommended? Not necessarily, right? If you want to go somewhere fast, go by yourself. If you want to go somewhere far, take a lot of people with you. But also understand it's going to take a little bit more time for that to happen, right? Like recognize it's going to take a second to get to the place that you hope to be. Especially if you're looking to bring more people on, especially if you're looking at bringing more people on board. That's really, really important. And it's a story we don't hear as much in the US. And I think like knowing that is also critically important as well. But I want to show you a little bit more in this video about like stages of change and how do you want to like target change when you're looking to make your change happen with using the knowledge that you understand in this class.
Creation process video next.
So what does that show us, right? That video shows us that the person that's the innovator...
This is the video you
The
watched.
shirtless dancing guy kind of gets too much credit. Like people will remember the shirtless dancing guy, the person that started the change, but it wasn't the shirtless dancing guy that made the change easier to adopt. It was the change agent. The change agent was the first 2 people that saw him doing something different, saw him doing something that was fun, saw him doing something that was followable, and decided to make a change and join him. This allowed the first other couple people, so like the first grouping of people that really came close to around them, called the pragmatists. Pragmatists will get on board with something, but they need to see the opportunity of this thing and why they should try to do it. They need to see a small group of people that are looking to create and make a difference before they're going to be willing to get on board. They need to see this 18% of people doing something good before they're going to get on board. Now, once you add the 18% and the 34%, I'm not good at math, but now we're a little bit over half, right? That's when the skeptics, the people that are like, I don't know about this idea, I don't think it's going to work,
that's when this group of people may get on board. And understanding that they are going to be very late in the change adoption process is important to recognize and respect, because we got to know who we're talking to on this continuum of change. Now, lastly, there's the traditionalists. Now, this is only 16% of all people, but these are people that are never going to change. They're never going to do something different. They're dug in, they're made their decision, and they're not doing nothing different no matter what anybody says. Do not waste your time on the traditionalists, because you're not going to change them. Rather, look for innovators, change agents, pragmatists, and skeptics to give you a sense of where someone is, so you can better speak to them and their point of view when it's time to get them to change their mind. So with that...
All right. So I'm going to leave that be for the time being. And I know, like, when you try to think about change, like, you're like, well, I'm no Martin Luther King. Like, I'm no Gloria Steinem. Like, I'm no Harvey Milk. Like, I don't know how to make change. I don't know that I have the power to make a difference. Remember, the world lies to you, and it tells you stories that you don't have power, that you're not smart enough, that you're not good enough, that you couldn't possibly make a difference. That is not true. The truth is, it just takes effort, and it just takes discipline. But if you get it into your mind that it's time to change something or fundamentally shift stuff, you can literally move mountains, and people will be inspired by the mountains you move. And if you're like, that's not true, Professor D, I couldn't move a mountain, let me show you somebody who did. There is a person that moved a mountain, and in moving the mountain, he changed life forever for his village. So let's look at our friend Dashrath Manji here and learn more about what he did and how he did it.
लेकिन वहाँ राज का खजाना लगा था, और लेकिन हमारे जो तो किसी का कोई खजाना नहीं, अपने कोई नहीं गया है, जो क्या है हमारे चेले की बात किसी का ये पता नहीं लगा, हम नहीं सकता इसके लोगों ने नाम हम कहते
I always think this is amazing. So in that video, you see Someone that just understood by showing up and choosing to make a difference every single day. He cut a road into a mountain that led to access to opportunity for all of his people. Now, that's amazing enough. But let's see what happened when people saw what Dashrath Manji did.
आपको पढ़ना भी है और रोजगार भी सीखना है, खास करके लड़की जाति को जिंदा रहना है, उसको पढ़ना नहीं। अगर पढ़ेंगे पैर पर खड़ा नहीं होगी, शादी हो जाएगा और कहेगा तो पैसा दो, जिसका मर्द हो जाए सारा काम होगा, पैर पर खड़ा नहीं होने के चलते। इसलिए मैंने भी जब से स्कूल का सपना देखा है, उस वक्त से मैंने समझाया कि जब तक देश के बेटा बेटी को रोजगार के साथ शिक्षा नहीं होगा, तब तक वो पैर पर खड़ा नहीं होगा और न देश मजबूत होगा।
So because someone saw Dashrath Manji get up and all those hours with that hammer, with that chisel through that mountain to make that giant road, they realized they had the power to make a difference too. And again, I think this is the thing that society is so afraid for you to know, is that you have so much power to make a difference. And when we see someone that has the power to make a difference and they're committed to making that difference, we become inspired, right? There's this thing in us called the vagus nerve, right? If we ever see anything and our eyes well up and our heart feels like it starts to blossom, we start breathing deeper, that vagus nerve gets connected. It starts hitting, right? And it's that sense of connection, that sense of power, of humanity, of how we come together to make a difference for each other. And you don't have to cut through a mountain. But I wanted to show you that if you wanted to, you could. And it doesn't just change you. It changes the people that see you too. So understand, when I ask you about this plan to create change, it's not always about the thing that you do. It's the thing that people see you do and how they see that they can make that change in their life as well. So with that, see that. Like, see the people in the world that are doing that small thing. There's a lot of people out there, right? Mr. Rogers said, in times of darkness, look for the helpers. Look for the people that are out there trying to make a difference. Look out there for the people doing the right and good thing. Look for those people because they exist. Sometimes we don't notice them because we're on YouTube or Netflix or whatever. But get out there, volunteer. My partner and I are deeply committed to service, and this pandemic's been incredibly hard on us because we haven't been able to get out in the same way that we used to. But when we see and notice that when we notice that, someone else gets inspired and someone else chooses to make a difference and something happens. So part of what we have to understand is it's our world. This is where we choose to live. And the world is the way it is because we allow it to be the way it is. So what I want you to do is think about what will you do to change it. And here's the assignment in a nutshell. I am going to ask you the following questions. What are you trying to change and where is the change to be implemented, right? So it could be that you want to create an anti-bullying program on playgrounds so no kid feels left out and they do good and like playtime in elementary schools is a positive and affirming thing for all people. Think that's unrealistic?
It's not. I sit on a board called Playworks that makes sure that people do these things specifically. I donate, and volunteer my time for what I know and understand about diversity work and how people push each other's differences down to make a difference for that organization. Another change that you might try to do is like maybe police brutality is something that you're like, this is one of those things that like hurts me. It hurts my heart. Like I want to stop seeing so many people of color shot. Think that's beyond your ability and scope to do. It's not. I'm working with a police officer friend who does believe that Black Lives Matter and would like to see greater accountability through police. And I'm going to work to go talk to the police. Am I going to fix it? I don't know, but I'm going to try. And in trying, we make a difference because even an attempt matters. It might be that we want to create workshops to show women about the beauty inside and not to worry about the outside as much, or worry about giving more affirmation to women about being smart or being taking risks or being bold, right? We want to reward that parts of femininity that we don't normally see. But like, think about one of the things that happened in class that you were like, this bothers me. This is a problem. This is one of those things that separates us and it's not right. How could you use what you know now to make a difference? And don't worry, you don't have to do it. This is a thought exercise. This is you showing to me that you know how to make a difference using what we learned in this class. So what is the change? What is the specific change that you want to put into place? Secondly, why is this change necessary? Why does this change need to happen? Part of creating change is showing people there's a problem and clearly outlining and defining the problem, which means you got to do some research on the problem. You got to show me that you found proof and evidence that this issue has existed. So I'm going to ask, I believe, for an APA citation of proof of the problem. And if you need help with that, go see the librarians because they're awesome at helping with some of those things. Don't just Google something and cut and paste something in there because sometimes those sites aren't reputable, right? There's a lot of disinformation and not true information on the internet. We want to find stuff that's accurate because if it's just somebody's opinion, it's not enough. There's not enough evidence there to change everybody's opinion to show why your change matters. So we need to be able to find credible information. Who is your idea of change meant to help? And who will help you with what you're trying to do? So this is where you need to consider, if you're trying to make a difference with hunger and homelessness, who works in the area of hunger and homelessness in Phoenix? What do they already do? And how could you add to what they're doing? Or how could you supplement to that, right? What if it's just that you're going to commit to making sure that at least 10 of your friends do 10 hours of service related to hunger and homelessness for people that are poor? I mean, that's a lot of change. That's a significant difference. Where is your change going to be implemented? Where are you going to try to make that change to happen? Is it going to be in schools? Is it going to be at the homeless shelter? Is it going to be with legislation, right? But again, if you're going to push legislation, you need to learn what are the steps. Like, who is your local your state senator? Who is your local House, Arizona State House representative? You're going to have to know that information and show me that, like, you've done the research that if you did choose to put this plan into action, you know next steps to get that done. Perhaps it's a ballot initiative. Like, you need to do research to show how you could create a ballot initiative so you could create some positive change within Arizona. How do you plan on making your change happen? So get a sense of, like, what are the steps that you're going to need to do? And it shouldn't be, like, if it's 3 steps long, it's not a good plan. Like, sometimes you need to, like, come up with a lot of little steps about how you're going to make these incremental shifts, these incremental changes. Who are stakeholders? Who else cares about this issue? Who else do you know? So again, thinking about that circle of influence, who is within your scope of people that would care about this issue, or who are friends of friends that you could connect to that could help you with some of this stuff? Get a sense of who is affected by these things, right? And sometimes it's widening the scope of, like, who thinks what is affected, because we used to not think of domestic violence as a public health concern. We used to see it as, like, that's just the neighbor's issue, until we understood what that did to the kids of the family, what that does to women, and how women fall into patterns of domestic violence, and how men fall into patterns of being abusers right? Because like there's something wrong with those men that need healing too. Perhaps your change is how we could help men who have learned how to do domestic violence and how to show them the opportunity of better, or how to hold workshops for young men about what good men do and how to be positive, affirming men so they aren't later abusers of men, women, or animals. And then how can you involve these other people to get them on board with your change process? Remember, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you need a lot of people to go with you. Who else could be allies in your communities? Who else could potentially think this is something that's important, that wants to see change? Again, I want to see thought. I want to see consideration. I want to see that you've done some research around this topic in the area. Who else might be interested? Like, you might not think of it, but like the Catholic Church really doesn't like hunger and homelessness. These are potential allies, right? Because now you've learned about folks that are doing something about these things. What are the barriers that are going to keep change from happening to you, right? Is it going to be time, right? Well, you're going to have to factor in you're a student right now. You're going to have to factor in that you're going to work right now. So you're going to have to make get a sense of like, what is the time expectation and how quickly could it take to get this done? I'm guessing you're starting this initiative with $0, right? So how much money would it take to get to the place that you would hope to go? What are attitudes that you're looking to change, right? Like, men don't think there's a problem with men in society. So sometimes, like, to help make change happen, you have to show that there's a problem with something that's happening with men that makes the mask you live in stuff exist, right? And then what are individuals that don't want to see the change happen? What are the folks that want to see things stay the way it is? Then you want to get a sense of who are the decision makers with these issues. Who are they allies or are they barriers with you and the change you're hoping to make? And then lastly, realistically, how long would it take for the change that you're hoping to see get implemented? So if you're trying to push a speech of some legislation, it's not going to be a month. It'll probably be like a year or two. If you're trying to get your friends to get more involved with doing community service, maybe it'll take a couple of months or a couple of tries to see what's working or what's not working as you attempt to get more people on board on how good it feels to make a difference for other people. If it's going to be you committing to doing a year of mentorship and a sports program for young kids. So, because sports is one of those things that, like, if you give positive messages on how they do sports, it's really affirming for women. And it's also one of those things where you can, like, cut short those messages like the coaches showed you in the mask you live in too, right? But I want you to give me some like legitimate consideration of like how long it will probably take to make this change. Sometimes it might like take 2 or 3 years, right? Again, I'm not asking you to do it. I'm asking you to show me you understand how to make a change. And really what I'm looking for is I want you to make this change on behalf of someone else. And I also would love to see you incorporate what you want to do for work or incorporate what you want to do in a career into this idea. Because if you make this an idea that you want to do as part of your work, as part of a purpose that, a greater purpose that maybe the universe is calling you to, you start to get a sense of like who you can be as you move into this stuff. You get a sense of how you can be someone that creates change and makes opportunity, right? So this is a big assignment. And with that assignment, I'm going to need to see a lot of depth of thought, a lot of deep consideration on this, because you have the ability to show me these things. But I need you to like really take some time and consider it. What am I looking for in each area? Probably 4 really long sentences or 6 shorter sentences in each area. And then if you've done research, I need to see like evidence of that research. So it could be an APA citation of a website, an APA citation of a book. It could be a documentary. So maybe you find the documentary on YouTube, or you find a documentary that shows what the problem is in like with one of the librarians and it's streaming. So you can like give me evidence of this issue, give me evidence of who are decision makers or barriers, give me a sense of like why you feel like this much money is needed to make a difference with what you're looking to do. But get a sense of all these little things, and then that will be your final assignment. And then after that, I think you have to do a vocabulary quiz, which I told you need to watch all those videos to do that vocabulary quiz. But if you watch all that videos, that vocabulary quiz isn't going to be very bad. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is a speech just like this to me. What are things that you're grateful that you've learned? What are one of those concepts you're still struggling with or wish that you could understand better? What are you grateful that you learned? What do you wish the rest of the world learned? But it's really just prompted questions with a list of, there's questions that you just go through and answer. Your speech should only be about two or 3 minutes, but I do need to see your smiling face and I do need to hear your actual voice. Do not have speech anxiety because the only person you're talking to is me. All right. I just want to hear from you on what has changed, what is different, and what are you grateful that you've learned. So with that is the last time you will hear from me in your course. Now I'm getting ready to hear from you about how you can use what you've learned and how you can change your communication choices to change the world. Because remember, we spoke the world into being the way that it is. We can speak it into the way of being different than it is too. We just got to remember the power to do those things resides in us. And the responsibility for making the change starts here. With that, peace and blessings to you. And I can't wait to hear from you in your assignments.